You're tuning into the X Factor of Safety. I'm your host, Pedro Maciel. Here at the X Factor of Safety, we like to discuss industry topics, both safety and not safety. We dive into daily lives of safety pros and various industry leaders, digging deep and finding out what their X Factor is.
Man, can you hear me?
Hey, how you doing?
What's going on, dude?
Doing all right?
I'm doing good. I'm just trying to get everything figured out here.
There we go.
There we go. What's going on, man? How's everything treating you?
Good. How about yourself, Sam?
Oh man, just wild and crazy. You know how it goes.
Yeah. How's stuff
good.
in Arizona right now?
It's good, man. Everything seems to be at least starting to get back to normal. It was weird. You know, I went out a little bit over the weekend just to do some grocery shopping and stuff like that. And the bars were open and like people were hanging out and there's people like in the streets and like, it was cool. It was all the food trucks were back out and it was cool to see, people kind of hanging out again. So that was neat.
A little bit of normalcy.
Yeah, it was cool, man. I mean, kind of in my neighborhood, like there's some pretty cool spots and kind of some nightlife and definitely some food trucks and stuff. And you kind of go through and it's just been kind of deserted, you know?
Right.
And then I go through now and it's kind of back to normal. Like the food trucks are kind of popping and like the bars are full and people are like, you know, coming out of the bars and like sitting, eating stuff off to their trunks, you know?
Yeah.
Using their trunks as picnic tables. It's cool to see it
crazy.
back to normal.
Yeah. And, you know, here in Texas, everything started opening up. I'm actually going to hit the gym. Lord, hopefully we're okay.
I'm excited, man. I've put on like the quarantine 40 pounds right now. It's been rough.
Oh yeah.
I've done nothing but sit around and like order Grubhub and watch Netflix. It's been bad. I guess seriously, it's like 30 pounds. It's at least like 30 pounds.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Right before the quarantine, I was on my way, you know, to I think it was like 15, 17 pounds I had lost. Yeah, that's all came back plus some. So
yeah, I had I didn't have much, you know, exercise equipment around the house. I had like a little bike and like a couple things, you know, not enough to like really get into it, you know. But yeah, our gym opens back up on Monday, so I haven't decided if I'm going to actually just like go straight to it or I'm going to wait just because of the rush.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it doesn't even have anything to do really with the COVID part. It's just like, I don't want to deal with those idiots like trying to like fight to get it now. Give it like an extra week to calm down, you know?
Yeah, let all the grunts go and get their workouts in. The ones that are, you know, juicing and then after that it'll settle down and then you can get nice workout.
It's not even that. It's mostly it's like the grandmas and grandpas that are in there, you know, that get on a machine and stay on the same machine for like 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're just watching TV. They're just sitting there cycling or doing.
And they're like, dang, Granny, you've done like 1,000 lap pull downs. You're gonna fly away if you keep this up. You know?
Oh yeah. So again, thank you for being on the show. I greatly appreciate you taking the time out to be on the show. You know, you know, I kind of stole your style a little bit just so that way people know already recording, get that good conversation in beforehand.
Yeah, for sure.
So. Welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful afternoon. This episode, we have someone very exciting, the one, the only, the HOP Nerd, Mr. Sam Goodman.
Yeah,
Sam.
Man. Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. We'd had you on a while back and always had a blast. And it's just great to be here, man.
Yeah. Again, you know, the HOP Nerd, jumping right into it, where did that stem from?
So as with most podcasters, and I'll give you the really long story because it won't be that long, but as with most podcasters, I have a day job because it's really more of a really expensive hobby than it is anything else. I have a really expensive something, I guess it is. But so I have a day job, and part of my day job for the past several years, and at least in the organization I'm at right now, I've spent a really good chunk of my last several years teaching and training and growing human and organizational performance in this organization. Myself and a near and dear friend of mine, Mrs. Patty Kapperman, who have actually had a My Pop podcast for folks that kind of listen to me. Her and I have kind of been the two in this organization that have kind of really, really driven human and organizational performance, doing pretty much everything, right? Doing all the training, doing all that stuff, from kind of the planning to the implementing to kind of everything. And on that path of training these thousands of employees, somebody called me the HOP Nerd at some point. And then it kind of stuck, either the HOP Nerd or the nerd, right? It was always call the nerd, call the HOP Nerd. Oh, we need to do a learning team, call the nerd, right? So, or that Sam, that nerd, right? So it was it was about half good, half not good.
Yeah.
But that's where it came from. It just came from really doing those trainings, doing those conversations, and somebody just called me that, and it kind of stuck. And I'm like, I like that. That's marketable. I'll run with that.
Yeah. Nice. So somebody just called you the HOP Nerd, and then it stuck.
It just stuck,
among other things, for those that are tuning in and listening, safety professionals and practitioners, we get called a whole bunch of stuff. Being called the nerd or the HOP Nerd, hey, that's one of the good ones.
Well, I'll say my first kind of. I'll keep it PG. I won't get into the rough stuff.
Oh, you can. It's good. We have no filter here on the X Factor. We're good.
There you go. The first nickname I had was the Kid, because I started in safety pretty young, and that's something that I've always had to kind of fight to overcome. Even now, like I don't think I'm that young, man. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. I don't feel like I'm that new to it anymore, right. And I still get called the Kid. I'm like, really? So before the HOP Nerd, it was the Kid. So there you go.
Yeah, go get the Kid. Go talk to the Kid.
Go get the safety Kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. I've been in it for, going on 11 years, 10 years. Mm-hmm. And it's the same. I got in it really young, right after the military. And, it definitely, you get your bumps and bruises along the way, but it definitely, helps you in the long run when you look back from when you started. And, how did you, and talking about that, jumping right into it, when did you find your passion for safety?
Well, it's weird because when I first started, let me say this. Let me say I never envisioned that safety would be where I would end up to start with, right? And that's probably most people that find themselves in safety. Yeah. Maybe not so much now. Some of the younger generation that it's promoted a little bit better. Some of the collegiate level programs are a little bit better. People can kind of see the market for the career now. Mm-hmm. But when I first started, that was nowhere near what I thought I would be doing. I like many folks, I came straight out of high school and ran to college really quick. And I started studying at my college. It was called Administration of Justice / Pre-Law, and I started studying law stuff. Right, and I was like, well, I want to probably become like a police officer because I just thought it'd be really cool to carry a gun because guns are fun, right? I got a few of those. I like playing with guns on the weekends, And I was like, well, I'll just do that, right? If for some reason that I really enjoy the school aspect of it, it's got this pre-law component. I can continue on with that, and it'll be awesome, right? I'll just do this stuff. And the law stuff is fun. I was a nerd for that stuff too, which probably kind of helped me later on in some of the safety world, But in the course of that, I had several friends that ran away and became firefighters, and I was like, oh, screw this. I want to go do that. That looks fun. So I did that, right? So I ran away to fire academy. I did the firefighting thing for quite a while, and I did that for quite a bit back home in Virginia. I grew up in Virginia. And then at some point, I was introduced to the nuclear commercial generation space as a contractor. I was like, oh, this is cool. Somebody's telling me kind of how you can go about, being a contractor and travel around and work these weird things I'd never heard of at the time called outages and or turnarounds, and I could go do these things, and it would be fun. You'd be off in the summer and off in the winter, and you make like boatloads full of cash and all this stuff. So I started in that as a helper, and then eventually, just trying to get my foot in the door and started. That's really what introduced me to industry. But all the while, I kind of had this not to jump too far ahead. I'd worked through that and did several different roles in the nuclear space as a leader and in some other places there. But all the while, I still had this really deep desire to help people. Mm-hmm. I still wanted to help people. That's something that I think that's what initially drew me really to, I joke about the carrying a gun and driving fast part with law enforcement. That's really what drew me to that, was to help people. That's what really drew me to the fire service, was that I got to help people. It was fun, but I got to help people. Ultimately, I got to help my neighbors. I got to help my friends. And I was missing that, right? So for my first several years in kind of the power generation space, I was like, this is fun. I like this, but I want to help people. I want to help more.
Right.
And that's when I kind of noticed safety as a profession, right? I knew that safety was there. Obviously, I dealt with safety people, from time to time, but it kind of stood out then as a profession. I'm like, you can do that for a living, and I can help people for a living. And I love power generation, and I can put those two things together. So I can work in this and help people. I'm like, that's really, really cool. So that's what started me down the path. After a little while, and after obviously some kind of focused education in that path, and some training in that path, and some mentoring from some other safety folks. I was fortunate enough to get mentors early. Once I had that kind of desire, I asked some people to be my mentor, and they pushed me in the right direction. And that's what ultimately led me down that path. I know that's a really long story, but it's, as with most, it's not a really clear-cut answer as to how I kind of found safety.
Right.
But once I got my foot into it, I really discovered my passion for it, because it was back to helping people. That was ultimately what it was helping people. Yeah,
that was your driving factor there to help people. And being in the nuclear plant, I was on a nuclear submarine. It's definitely, got to be on your P's and Q's and right. All the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. So with that being said, and great backstory, and it gives us a little more insight on the HOP Nerd himself, how he got started. You said you went and asked for some mentors. Now, most people think, to get a mentor, they have to follow a whole bunch of people and like all their content. And,
right.
Nowadays, all you have to do is ask, and yes. You have a plethora of mentors and people that are willing to help. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about your mentors. You don't have to say their names, but how did they guide you along the way?
Sure. Well, I was lucky. So I had kind of the first one, and I'll say this, when I decided that I wanted to go towards safety, I was like, who better to ask how to go in that direction than maybe a safety person, right? And most people don't do that. We're as humans, we're kind of lazy in this modern kind of world. We're like, just Google it, right? Yeah. But so I was fortunate enough to know of someone at the time that was working in safety, that was a safety specialist for another organization, and it had just never really come up before. I didn't know this person really well, but I just reached out to them. I was like, hey, this looks like something it looks like something I would like to do. How would I go about doing this? And fortunately, that first person was very honest with me and was just like, listen, you need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do this before anyone would even give you the time of day or give you an opportunity. And then once you do that, you need to start as a field tech, and you need to go into the field. You need to learn how to do this stuff. You need to work your way up. And fortunately, they kind of they really shot me straight with that and pointed me in the right direction and got me started on the right foot. I'm not picking on any safety folks out there, but so often it seems like we hear the stories, right? That it's somebody gives you a favor, somebody gets you a job here, a job there, and that's how some people get in. I'm not saying anything really negative about people giving you a leg up. That's not a bad thing, I don't think. But this person was very adamant about me kind of learning certain things before they would even give me any type of recommendation, which was good. It really made me kind of push and work for that. I had another mentor once I kind of got started. That was actually, it's weird because it was actually, I grew up in the contract space. The vast majority of my life I spent as a contractor. And one of the sites that I went to as a maintenance contractor, it's weird. It's weird thinking about it now. But one of the site safety reps, one of the senior safety specialists there, actually became one of my mentors while I was there. For whatever reason, saw something, and was like, I'm going to help this, because I was young. I was really young at the time. It was my first couple of years in the profession. and just took me under their wing and really, really drove home a lot of the professionalism side and really pushed me towards certain professional organizations, really pushed me kind of towards the extra kind of mile, to do some other things. And then it's weird because they all kind of happen in order, and now they're all kind of this mentorship team that I have now, but I met one kind of in the midpoint of my career. And it's just like these people, once you really start down this path and you open yourself up to finding mentors and listening to mentors, they kind of come into your life, right? It just seems like they kind of almost like it's meant to be. I don't want to get too kind of hippity dippity here, but it seems like if once you open yourself up to some of that, they'll start to come towards you. And some of the ones that I've really had that have been my best mentors have just been really, really good leaders or managers that I've had in this space. But yeah, they've been phenomenal. And that's the biggest pro tip that I can give anyone in this space. No matter where you're at in your career, you need a mentor. You need somebody that can just be a sanity check for you, that's outside of maybe your company, that's outside of maybe your world, even maybe even outside of the profession, just to be a sanity check, a sounding board, just a friend, right? Because some of these mentors kept me in this field when I was ready to walk off and leave it. Oh yeah.
And those, newer safety professionals that are listening, you will have that. You will get fed up and want to call it quits. Don't. Stick through it, fight through it, reach out. It definitely, I've had some mentors, and one of my biggest mentors, and it was really young, but my grandfather, bless his soul, and he's up in heaven now, but he taught me really, really early on the value of helping somebody and not expecting anything in return, and then not to mention the work ethic, how to put in the work and grind for what you want, because nobody's going to hand it to you. It's not going to be given. And that's one. And then obviously once I jumped into the safety career, it definitely helped to grab mentors and have those people that I can reach out to and talk to and, just pick their brain and, vent. And it's definitely good to have mentors.
So it's interesting though, because it's mine was very similar. My grandfather was kind of the same. I was actually I was adopted and raised by my grandparents from a very, very young age. They were my parents. My grandfather passed away back in 2008. But same thing, just the work ethic, just to go out and get it and don't expect anything, work hard, be a good person, and anything's possible. Every bit of that, because people ask me that all the time. They're like, do you ever sleep? And I'm like, oh, my grandfather didn't, so why should
exactly.
He worked till he was like 80, so why am I gonna stop?
Exactly. And my daughters, I have 4 daughters. My wife, we definitely try to keep everything under control, but they're on the weekends, I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, ready to get it, and they're like, what the heck are you doing? Like, why? Sleep in. I'm like, I can't. And it's I'm starting to kind of ease in, maybe a 6:30 late start on the weekends, but it's still up early.
I know what you mean. Yep.
So you being the HOP nerd, I know you probably listened to the Safety Justice League's HOP BBS debate.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? How do you think it turned out?
Well, I will say this first and foremost. So I thought it was really amazing. No matter what side of the fence you fall on this stuff, I thought it was really amazing to hear 2 people come together and talk about 2 topics that are usually at extreme odds, that can get extremely emotional, and just be nice, normal people.
Yeah,
I think we need a lot more of that in this world, because as with good God, right? I mean, look at the country. Look at the political divide. I mean, that's just a good example. That same divide is present in our space, right? I mean, you see that in safety, right? I mean, I obviously hold some pretty strong beliefs about certain things. I hold some pretty strong beliefs that are backed by science around some certain things, without throwing too many rocks at some of the other other folks. But even if I throw that out there and I'm like, listen, here's my belief. Oh, and here's the evidence as to why. It's not just my personal feelings. Right. People will then turn around and attack me just because it hurts their feelings, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's not the point. Like, I'm not attacking you. And I mean, again, just name any belief here, right? So I think it's really important to draw that out and say how awesome that is, that two people with and I'll come back to this, but with opposing, I'm doing some air quotes here for folks that aren't going to see this, mm-hmm. With opposing views, came together and had a really good conversation, just like normal people, which is awesome. Like, why can't we do that, right? But number two is I didn't hear anything that was too wild and crazy. Yeah. Right. So I think one of them might have been an undercover hop person. I'm just joking. I don't think officially, but it's, as you have those conversations, I think it's what we naturally see. Yeah. Right. Good, treating people like people. Like, mm-hmm. like just treating people like people, being a humanist, right? Yeah. Is ultimately everyone's going to lean towards treating people pretty good, right? Right. And even listening to some of the stories, right? There was a story about an individual in there that had a problem and ended up, I don't remember the exact story, but there was some gas produced, right? And not good, really bad event type of thing. And at the end of the day, it sounded like that person got the stick, right? Yeah. For lack of a better way to put it, they got in trouble. When really, when both sides of that conversation were going, yeah, that should have been fixed in the system, right? And that's really what most of us are saying, right? Is that you can close your eyes, and I don't mean to give too much away from their podcast, but you can close your eyes and imagine those situations where someone has done something, right? And we can put ourselves into that situation, and that's the point. For me, I kind of pigeonholed myself with a little bit of the hop I am the hop nerd. Mm-hmm. But ultimately what I promote is treating people like people and understanding that people are the solution. And the biggest thing of that, especially post-event, is understanding that everything made sense until it suddenly didn't. Right. People, it's back to that local rationale thing. And I don't mean to dig too far down the nerd rabbit hole here. But people, it's just that. It's the same thing that we've said for so often, is that people don't come to work to do a bad job. Right. So people don't come to work to get hurt. People don't come to work to die. Right. And it doesn't do us any favors of blaming them when they come to work and die. It doesn't do us any favors for blaming them when they come to work and have something not so great happen. So ultimately what I pulled from that debate more than anything else really is that we still landed back on human and organizational performance. I'm not saying HOP is perfect, but ultimately we landed back at the point that blame doesn't fix anything. Right. Right. Are there some great things that you could probably pull from the behavioralist crowd? Probably. There's some good stuff there. I'm not going to throw them out, I'm not going to throw them out, and just say, no, they're not, there's nothing there. There's probably some good stuff you can learn from them, or there's some tools you can use to work on human behaviors probably. But really the biggest point that I pull from that and I share with people is that trying to change behaviors isn't a really good defense, right? That relying on administrative tools, they're still not that great at defenses, right? And they're going to fail. So a better place to get is where they went in that debate, is to get back into the system and understand that those people, that person, their behaviors came from something in the system. They didn't just choose to have that happen to them. So right. I know that's a really long-winded kind of partial dive down kind of the general HOP rabbit hole, but to kind of sum that up is that I think it's great because they pulled together two people with opposing views and everyone was still friends. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think there's stuff that you can pull from everything, right? I just want better. I want safety better. I don't necessarily want HOP. I don't necessarily want safety differently. I don't really care what we call it. I just want to have safety betterment. That's really what I want to see.
Yeah, and I used to be a very heavy VBS guy, mm-hmm. changing the behavior. If we change the behavior, we'll fix the system. And then, I started listening to your podcast and reading some books on actual human and organizational performance. And it really boils down to the system, the systems that we put in place and trying to fit a system that's broken and thinking that, okay, well, this person is going to fix that system and not get hurt. when the system is already broken. And
right.
that definitely is, you've inspired me to kind of transition and I still pull some stuff from the behavioral based safety programs and methodology, but the HOP and just understanding people, and they're not to blame. Like you said, they don't come to work to get hurt. They don't come to work, thinking, oh, today I'm going to die. No, they come to work, to make a buck, to make a living, to provide for their families. And it does us no good to place blame when something does happen. Well,
I think what was so frustrating to me is that I would see these events where someone would die at work, right? And then the story, and that's horrible. That's the most horrific thing that can happen. And people listening out there that are safety professionals, most of us have been around those events at some point in our career if you've been doing this for a significant amount of time. I grew up in the high world of high hazard, as with most of us do. Most industries that use safety professionals is high hazard because we're there, right? There's usually, we're doing high and heavy stuff, and we're in confined spaces, and we're working with stuff that goes boom, and we have all the ingredients to make a disaster at any given time, right? We got all the ingredients to make it on the news in a split second. But I'd been around, fortunately not many of these, but the few that I had personally seen or been around or been near, it always ended up in the same thing. We always ended up blaming the person that died, right? And that just, there's no other way to put it. It just pissed me off, right? Because I'm going, that person, if they had any idea, and a fatality is an extreme example, but if they had any idea that doing X, Y, Z, or pulling that switch, or pushing that button, or going in that space, or doing X, Y, Z, doing this or that or the other, if they had even a thought that it would result in them dying, they wouldn't have done it. It's just that simple. They would not have done it for whatever reason. It made complete and total sense all the way up until the point that it suddenly didn't. Right. And unfortunately, in those situations, at that point, it's already too late. Right. But again, that's an extreme example. You can apply that to anything, right?
Yeah.
I love the example. We at the sharper end of the organization, we like to blame when bad stuff happens, right? At the tradesperson, at the craftsperson, right? When we're out in the field working on stuff, we like to blame when bad stuff happens. The farther you get towards the blunt end of that stick, right? The farther you get towards the blunt end of the organization, we blame less and less and less. And that's kind of wacky, right?
Yeah.
But I use that example because we have, I'm pointing at my computer, we have backspaces on our computers because we make mistakes. We mess stuff up, right? It's there for a reason, right? That's going to happen. People are going to mess up. People are going to make errors. That's part of being human, right? We've all got halfway to work and realized, I left my phone, right? And had to go back and get it. Especially if you're anything like me, you carry two of them around usually, right?
Yep.
Or you get, I'll give you a really good example. Here's a personal story. I was in a rush, right? Here you go. Here's the perfect storm of how bad stuff happens, right? I was in a rush. I've got my daughter in one hand. I've got my bag in the other, right? And I'm going down the stairs. I'm late for a meeting. It's really important. I'm dealing with some stuff. I need to get to work. I've got to get her and get her to school. I've got to go stop and get gas on the way, like the whole thing, right? Like just all the way, all bad stuff kind of happens. So I finally get to work and I'm like, oh, thank God I made it on time, right? I go to open my trunk and my backpack's not there. And I'm like, wait a second. I had my backpack in my hand. So where's my backpack at? So I go home and I had set it behind my car and I had run over my backpack.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I'm not sponsored in any way by Oakley backpacks, but it saved my computer. So just pro tip, if you're a traveling safety pro, invest in a good backpack.
Yes.
If it's $150, it's worth it. Just trust me.
Yes.
Okay. Good backpack. But and that even says that's even can be a little bit of the story. I had a little bit of margin because I had a little bit of control by having a really good backpack, right? I didn't assume that I would never run over my computer. I didn't assume that I would never drop it, right? I assumed that I would. That's why I spent $150 on a backpack.
Exactly.
Right. But so often, in an event just like that will happen in an organization and will say, oh, stupid person. Right. And on the outside, people hearing that story, it's easy to go, oh, stupid person.
Yep.
Right. But when you close your eyes and you really think about it, you're like, oh, I could totally see myself doing that.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. And I was listening to your podcast with the last one you just put out, Mark. Mark Alston.
Oh, Mark Alston. Yeah.
You know, and it, you know, just like you said, a lot of times the root cause analysis when you're doing an RCA, and, you know, I've gotten away from RCAs, and, you know, if it's having to deal with machinery, that's great. When it's having to deal with the system and a process, it's great. But everything usually leads to, you know, not following procedure.
Right.
You know,
or the procedure not existing, or
not existing. Yeah. Something that's tied to that person.
Yeah.
No. So, and, you know, it was a good episode. I was actually on my way back up to San Angelo from Houston, and I was listening to the podcast, and, you know, very, very good content. And, you know, but again, it's placing blame on the human being when we're going to make mistakes. We got to figure out the process to better that, so they make fewer mistakes. But again, you can't get mad if they do make a mistake.
When the problem is that, so number one is that we have to accept this piece too, is that it's normal for us to want to blame people. Right. That's normal. I mean, if any of us have been around any of this stuff, right, and you look at that, it's our first instinct as people is to go, oh God, idiot.
Yeah.
Right? We have to accept that it's a bias that we have. That's okay. I'm not saying that but the whole point is that we have to acknowledge that bias is there and quickly move past it and go, okay, blame doesn't actually fix anything. It feels really good. And it's seductively simple to go, oh, person, stupid. And you know what they say about stupid? You can't fix stupid. So we're done here. We can move on and get past this, and everything's fine. We can do a quick stand down and life's good, right?
Right.
But the whole point is that as good as it feels to blame and as simple as it seems to blame, there's a couple things that you really have to dive into. And the first piece is that what we just mentioned is that blame doesn't actually fix anything. Right. And actually blame and learning move opposite of one another. Right. So if you really want to really fix stuff, if you really want to make betterment in your organization, and I'll throw this out here now, is that we've, not to kind of sidetrack too far, but most organizations have an over focus on prevention. Right. Most of the time when we have something not so great happen, all of the investigation is focused on one thing: how did we fail to prevent? Yeah. Right. And that really, we're already really good at prevention, right?
Right.
We're usually really good at prevention. So we really need to come back and start to understand that rather than just focusing on how we failed to prevent, we need to start to try to understand how normal work happens. Right? Why it made sense until it didn't make sense. You know, instead of trying to focus on all these other little pieces that we normally focus on in a root cause, that we normally focus on in kind of traditional investigations, it's really important to try to focus on the stuff that's normal, right? Because we normally get it right. Just normally get it right. So there's a lot more learning there. But the whole point is that learning and blame they just don't work together. And that's a little reductive. I get that. Sure, could you maybe learn and blame? Maybe, right? But the point is that no one ever gets that right. So it just doesn't work well together. So you really just have to make a choice as an organization. You have to make a choice as a leader. You just have to say, okay, blame would feel really good, but it's not going to fix anything. So it's better that we learn from this. And actually, I love the way Sidney Decker puts it, is that an event is an investment that you've already made.
Yep.
Right? You've already made the investment. You might as well get your return on it.
Yep.
If you blame, you're throwing your return in the trash can.
Yep.
Right? If you move past blame and get into learning, you're getting some ROI. So focus on getting that ROI because you've already paid for it. Right? You've already had the incident. You've already had the close call. You've already shelled out the cash. You might as well get some return on it, right? So moving beyond blame and focusing on learning is one of the most important pieces that we have to focus on, right? If there's anything that folks can just grab onto and start to do a little differently, it would be how you react to events and the blame piece, right? Because it's not helpful, right? It doesn't help us get where we want to go.
No, it causes more chaos than anything else.
Exactly.
And you know, in times of need and situations, you have to, you know, remove that chaos from the picture and figure out the best solution. And it's not only, you know, for the company, it's for the individual that, you know, did have the mistake and ended up getting hurt. We need to do everything for them. Well,
and there's something there too. And you're bringing up something that's really near and dear to my heart. especially as you look at that individual and you look at the folks that were affected by that event, and even that, not just that person, but that crew, the folks close to it, maybe other folks. We have to move down this path. For many organizations, seek retribution.
Yep.
Right. And retributive justice is kind of this common thing that occurs in organizations where we meet pain with pain. And really, it's not helpful. Justice can exist on a kind of the inverse of that. Move over to a more restorative approach where we ask that question. We change our questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Retribution, we ask this kind of set of questions where we say, who was it? How bad was it? Based off of which rule they broke and how bad they broke that rule, what do they deserve? And then, we meet pain with pain, and then nothing good comes from that, right?
Right.
And kind of what you're bringing up with focusing on that person is really moving down the restorative approach to organizational justice, right? We go out and we say, who was it? What do they need? Right? What are their second victims? Does this crew need stuff? What's the organization need? What's kind of the grand scheme of things? What do people need? And that can be in a very acute sense where, this employee is hurt. They need care. We need to make sure that they get the right care. We need to make sure that their family is taken care of, in the very acute sense of that. Or it can be emotional hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was big, bad, scary. This person was hurt. Their crew is affected by it. You kind of get where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But it really changes the questions that we ask. Who's hurt? What do they need? Who's responsible to get them what they need? How do we learn from this? Right? It's that, it's really shifting that piece of it, because it's instead of meeting already hurt with more hurt, we're trying to meet hurt with learning.
Yeah.
Or hurt with healing and learning really is what we're trying to do.
I like that.
So
hurt with healing and learning.
Yeah.
And it's great. And again, you brought up another good point, the mental health aspect of not only that person that, is involved, but the people around them, the crew members, how are they going to react now when they have to, and get asked to go do that same activity where their, partner got hurt. So being that open ear and that shoulder, if they need to cry or, they need to vent, being there and giving them what they need to,
Exactly. And there's another piece to that too, that we forget, that a lot of times we kind of seek this retribution thing as an organization because we like that. It's kind of back to that need, right? Where we want to find the wrongdoer. We want to find the person that caused this, and we want to hold them accountable, air quotes, right?
Right.
And we do that by extracting punishment or extracting our pound of flesh from that person that violated, or did something wrong. And really, again, it's back to that point that really doesn't do a lot, right? At the end of the day, no one is going to make you feel any worse than you already feel for having that event occur, right? I get in trouble for using this example, but I'll little on me, I start with controversy. but it's like the kids that we hear of every year that get locked in cars. Right. And I'm sure that there are some malicious cases of that. Right. I'm sure that there are people that have done that on purpose that totally deserve whatever bad comes their way. Right. But there's so many of those. Right. And it really hit home to me when I watched a video of a mother that had an infant die in a car, and just you could just see the emotion coming through this. And they're basically saying, like, I've never thought in a million years I would be that person, right? I don't know what happened. It's that kind of stuff where the perfect storm comes together and that person didn't necessarily choose to do that, right?
Right.
But we throw them in jail, right? And this is a more societal example, but you can apply this kind of lesson to any organization. I don't know if you can do any more damage to that person than the fact that they're going to have to live the rest of their life knowing that they accidentally killed their kids.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of the same thing that you see in organizations, right? That person already got hurt or hurt someone else or had a bad problem. I don't know if putting a letter in their file and putting them off work for 3 days, what does that really do? Right. That person is already going to beat themselves to death more than we ever could. Yeah. Right. And I'm not saying that's wrong. People should feel bad when something bad happens, right? That's a normal kind of human instinct. We should, right? When I ran over my backpack, the only person that was calling me stupid was me, right? Back to kind of the day job story, I didn't have my personal computer in it. I had a computer for the company I was working for in it. So I called my manager and I was like, listen, I think it works. I hope everything's fine. He's like, that's fine. No big deal.
Yeah.
everything's fine. Yeah. So same thing. There was nothing that they could have done to me to make me feel worse than what I was already feeling. Right. So this need to kind of extract flesh or cause pain to people because they've done something wrong, I don't know. I mean, we could get into some pretty deep philosophical stuff on that, but at least in the organizational sense, I don't know that really does us any good. I would venture to say that it probably does more harm than good. Right?
Yeah, definitely. So, no, and great knowledge and gems and jewels that you're dropping.
I get off in rants if you don't.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's good conversation, and it's good for people that are listening, and will tune in. They need to know that, it's not always about placing blame. If you're new and you try to come in with iron fists and start blaming people, you are going to be the bad guy. You're not going to get anywhere. It
just doesn't fix anything. If there's one thing that I can share with people is that you will never discipline people to not having errors. We've tried in our industries for 50 years now, longer than that, yeah. Right? Really, since way back when, since management and management styles have first started being studied, we have tried to beat people into submission. We've tried to beat people into not making mistakes, into not being human, really is what we're saying. We tried to beat people into not being human, and guess what? People still make mistakes.
Yep.
So if you just accept that fact, I don't mean to go back to the HOP principles too much, but if you just accept that fact, that error is normal and error is super boring. So when we say that means that people maybe, skirting off the procedure a little bit or bending the rules or not knowing that a rule exists, all that's normal. If you just accept that that's normal and move past that, you can actually get into some quality learning, and that helps move you past that blame piece.
Well, we're at the end of our show. We want to thank you for lending us yours for just a little bit. We hope you were able to get a bit of value out of this episode. We would love to hear from you, so go check us out on the website, thexfactorofsafety.com. Send us an email at xfactorofsafety@gmail.com. You can even give us a call or send us a text message over to our X Factor hotline at 434-381-0723. If you have thoughts or ideas for the show or would like to be featured on the show, reach out and we'll make it happen. So before I go, ask yourself one question. What is your X Factor? Until next time.